Welcome! In this series of short videos, we will look at topics common to both the PowerBasic console and Windows compilers. Today we will look at using the Windows API pipe functions in new applications. We have done a number of videos where we've used the shell commands to shell out to some external process from your application. While the shell command is very useful, there are other ways of achieving this. One way to use the shell command is to create a batch file from your application and then execute that batch file using the shell command. The external process you're running may in itself create some output, which you're then going to have to read back into your application in order to make use of that data. What we're going to look at today are 3 Windows API functions to allow you to do this without having to create batch files or the need to read what is created from the external process. So let's have a look at the code to see how we can use pipes. What we have on screen now is the template of our application. We're using 3 include files: the standard Windows API include, the common display include, and a new library called pipe to string. The pipe to string library has been inspired by the new pbusers.org forum. This is a forum created by the PowerBasic users for the PowerBasic users. So I would encourage you to go to pbusers.org to register yourself as a new forum user. As well as giving details about our new community, it has links to both Gary Bean's website, where you can download GB threads. This useful resource is an offline thread viewer for the original PowerBasic forum, allowing you to search and view the posts in the 35,000 threads from the old forum, ranging from 1999 to August 2025. It also has a link to my website, where we have an index of all the YouTube PowerBasic videos. And at the top of the screen, we have the users forum. This has been newly created to give us somewhere where we can discuss lots of PowerBasic ideas, issues, and problems. But now, let's get back to our code. If we have a look on Microsoft's website, we can see the commands we're going to be using. First of these is the popen command. So let's get right into our PowerBasic code and start using it. So from our application, we're going to attempt to use the tree command which exists in our console. So let's first open a console and have a look at using the tree command. If we run the tree command, we'll get some information coming up on screen telling us the folders and subfolders in the current folder we're in. So we can see there's a folder called code, one called pre-work, which has a subfolder called SLL, and another folder on the same level as code and pre-work called recordings. So the tree command is very useful for getting this kind of information. But how can we get that back to our application? So we're going to create that and put it into a command string variable. We'll call it tree, and we'll use the $path$ with 2 dots to go back a directory to go for the root of the application folder we're in. So we're going to create a local variable called strCommand as a string variable. And we're going to create a subroutine called runPipe. This is going to give us an output, and that's going to be a wide string. Wide strings use expanded character sets. Normal string variables can contain dynamic strings, but these are ANSI strings. A wide string takes a Unicode format. The Unicode format is very useful for character sets which have more than the standard 128 values. So now that we've declared these 2 variables and the call to our runPipe, we're going to output the value of that output to our log. Quite simply saying tree command, giving us a carriage return line feed, outputting the result we got back from this new function, and then following that with a carriage return line feed. So let's now go and create this new runPipe function. So here is the template of our new function, taking its single parameter. So this is going to be a very simple function calling our pipe to string function within our library. We're declaring a local variable as a W-string, and we're calling pipe to string. So let's have a look at our library and see what this is actually going to do. So here we are inside our pipe to string include file. The code within this include file accesses the MSV CRT DLL. This is a dynamic library for the Microsoft Visual C++ runtime. The file is a Windows system file. There are 3 functions declared within here. If we scroll down slightly, we will see the 3 functions. One called popen, one called fread, and one called fclose. If you've not come across declaring Windows API functions before, there are 2 important parts here. The first part here is the name of the function. This is the name that you will refer to it in your application. The alias is what it's called inside the DLL. This is case dependent and has to match exactly what is in the DLL. The name of the function here can be anything you wish, but for consistency here, I've kept the names very similar. Each of these functions takes a number of parameters. These are defined in the Windows API and must match that exactly. So here is our function, pipe to string, taking its single parameter. And it's passing back to the calling function a string. Because these 3 functions depend on the use of a console, this is easily done within the console compiler. However, within the Windows compiler, we have to have a bit of specific code that will allocate a console using another Windows API function. We can do this quite easily by this conditional compilation line. This constant here, pbcc32, is only defined within the console compiler. So we can use the def command to say if it is not defined, then we know we're in the Windows compiler. Otherwise, we're in the console compiler. So if we are in the Windows compiler, we need to use the allocate console Windows API call, and then we can set the Windows position. Next, we then start to use these 3 Windows API calls, the popen to open up our pipe, which will return a handle. If this handle is 0, then we exit the function immediately. Otherwise, we're going to use the string builder. This is one of the inbuilt classes of PowerBasic. It will allow you to build up a string bit by bit in a very efficient manner. Next, we're going to have a do loop, and we're going to read, using the fread Windows API call, the information coming back from our external process. And we will then use the string builder to store this up in our sbout variable. And once we've exited this loop, that will mean there's nothing more to read, and we can then use the fclose call to close off the pipe. And again, we're testing to see if we're in the console compiler or not. If we're not in the console compiler, then we need to free up the console that we have created. And the very last line in this function is to return the value of sbout as a string. So with this short amount of code, we can call this external tree function and pull the information back. And we should display this onto our log. So let's run the application now and see what we get back. And there is the application running in our console compiler. We can see we have the using pipes command, the tree command text, and we have information on the folder path. It gives us the name of the volume, it gives us the path to that particular folder, and it gives us the subfolders inside it. We have code, pre-work, a subfolder called SLL, and one called recordings. So we have successfully called an external process called tree from our application. We have taken the output from that tree command and pulled it back into our application, allowing us to use the information. So what other commands can we use quite easily within our application? Another command you may well use in consoles is the directory command, the dir command. So we're going to do exactly the same thing as we did before. We're going to create a command variable holding the dir command. And we're going to use the run pipe function once more to run that command and pull back the resulting data. And we're then going to take that data and we're going to push that out to our log. So let's run the application once more and see what we get. And there we have the output of the directory command. We have a list of all the files within that directory and the date and time and the size of the file. So having that information back inside your application allows you to do whatever you need with it. So what more can we run on the command line using our console? Let's assume we want to use the find command. The find command is very useful for finding a value string inside a file and telling you exactly where in the file it exists. If we do a help on the find, we'll see there are a number of options. We can do a case-independent search. We can also display line numbers. So that's what we're going to do in here. We're going to use find, we're going to use a case-independent search, and we want line numbers. We're looking for the word WS result. And the folder we're looking in is our current folder, and we're looking for the file using pipes.bas, which is our source code file. And as we've done before, we're putting that information out to our log. So let's try running that and see what we get. And there is our command at the bottom of the screen. It's giving us the detail of the file we're interrogating using pipes.bas, and it gives us the line number and the data in the line of each instance of the finding of WS result. So this could be very useful for interrogating a file quite easily. Of course, you can use the clipboard command to reset the clipboard and set the text you have got back from your external process onto the clipboard, allowing it to be pasted to any other application that can support it. So as you can see, using this process of piping allows you to call an external process and get output from that process back into your application without having to shell or create local files or even run a batch file. Hopefully you'll find these commands useful in your applications, but that's it for today. Thank you for watching.
Thank you for watching today's video. Please feel free to click on the link in the description below to discover more videos.